Hello, writer friends. Welcome to Let's Write Scripts. I'm Mike Acrady, a WGA screenwriter and the head of writing at Arc Studio, the best screenwriting app in the world. There's a link to check out Arc Studio in the description. If you want to use it to write your scripts, you can start writing for free. Today on Let's Write Scripts, we're going to be doing 3 timed writing sprints where you can work on your script or your novel or whatever creative project you're working on today, or like maybe you're just at work and you want some creative company. That's cool too. But we're going to do timed writing sprints, and then we'll be chatting in between those sprints, and I'll be answering questions about screenwriting. We'll be talking about screenwriting, talking about how our writing's going. It's gonna be fun. It's usually a pretty good time. Before we get into it, as always, I want to know, where are you and what are you writing today? What are you working on today? Is it a feature film? Is it a pilot? Is it a short film? Is it a novel, a short story? Are you doing like working on some essays or something at work? A spreadsheet, a very exciting spreadsheet with an exciting act 3 in that spreadsheet. Let me know where it is. Love seeing people from all over the world joining in. And we always like to have a discussion question to kick things off, to get us in the writing mood. Brains, have been doing whatever they've been doing today. Maybe work, maybe been stressed out. I don't know, but whatever it is, let's get into the writing zone. So that question today is kind of a 2-parter. When would you want to add more conflict to a scene, and how do you do it? So when would you want to add more conflict to a scene? And if you did want to add more conflict to a scene, how would you go about adding that conflict to that scene? So we'll get into that in a moment, and I'll share some thoughts, but I'd love to hear what you guys think about when you would want to add more conflict to a scene, and how would you go about adding that conflict to a scene. If you're feeling it, please like this video, hit subscribe, turn on all notifications, all that good stuff. And of course, during the second break, I will be showing the sandwich of the week. If you're new and you want to know what the sandwich of the week is, you're going to have to wait until the second break, but it's a pretty good sandwich. We do some pretty good sandwiches on this show. To answer the first 2 questions myself, I'm in LA and it's been really nice. We've been having a lot of arguments on Let's Write Scripts between hot and cold weather, places where it's too hot and places where it's too cold for winter. But LA right now is like in the 70s, and it's just sort of like beautiful. And it's just sort of like, this is like the Rose Parade weather. The Rose Bowl Parade. Was it Rose Bowl Parade? Yeah, or this Rose Bowl Parade. Rose Parade? No, I'm completely doubting myself. But it's just like, that's like the marketing stunt that LA does, where it's like New Year's Day and people turn on the Rose Parade and they see like the California being like 65 degrees or 70 degrees and sunny or something like that. That's like today. Today's like poster weather for California winter. So it's pretty nice. What am I writing today? I'm working on this coming of age horror feature, and I'm kind of finishing up act 1 right now. Feeling pretty good. Yeah, I think I'm going to be kind of finishing up my first act today, hopefully moving into act 2. And I don't know, it's a project I've been excited about. The writing's been going well. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to be doing today. Checking in the chat, we got Cash in Arkansas. We got Rosie in Cabo sharing some laurels. Her web series got 3 selections and an award. Congratulations, Rosie. So that's awesome. We got Shako in Ireland tuning in from Ireland. Here's hoping to do a smoother stream than last week. Yeah, last week, if you weren't here, the chat wasn't working on YouTube for some reason, except halfway through, we discovered that the emojis were working. So all the communication in the chat was like pictographs. It was like combinations of emojis to communicate intent. And I had some fun trying to interpret what those meant. But today we have words. And as writers, it's always great to have words available. So I think we're off to a better start than last time. We got Jennifer Jane from Central California. So glad you're here. We got Tessa in Studio City working on a pilot, and also your day job, you. And we got the chat going today so far. All right, Brian in Jacksonville working on a graphic novel. Jane's working on the feature based on your sister's death, which is an intense subject, but I hope that is going well. Serge from New Jersey writing your first feature film, a psychological thriller. Oh, that sounds awesome, man. I don't know if this is your first time. I don't recognize your name, but glad you're here and hope you get some great writing done today. And this is kind of fun, Chaco. I did a spreadsheet the weekend, made a list of a film from every country, found one for all but 8 countries. That's cool. Just any film, or like your favorite film, just kind of see, like, are you going to watch them? Is this like an ongoing project? What's the end result of that? John in New Jersey, we're visiting an old screenplay. Glad you're here. Philippe from France. Do we talk about the white beard? About what? The fact that I'm just going gray? You want to talk about my aging? If you really want to, we don't have to. Man, it does look kind of white today. I don't know what's going on there. getting older. I'm 40, and just the numbers just keep going up. Juno from Massachusetts, working on your book, prepared lots of great emojis to use today. Everyone's ready for the chat to be broken, but like so far so good. Fingers crossed. Let's see how it goes. Molly from Florida, not working on anything in particular, but I just did my first pilot episode of an OG script. Oh, that's awesome. Congrats. Welcome, Molly. Chris from the UK is working on an animated, probably feature. Christian from South Carolina is working on your outline. Making the story simple is hard. Yeah, this is funny. That reminds me of this old joke where it was like someone was writing a letter, a famous author, and it was like, I apologize for the length. I would have made it shorter, but I didn't have time. Where it's like, it's easy to have like, the big sort of ideas, but like actually constraining it down to what you're doing does take a lot of effort. Nishi is here. So glad. Kiwi in Pennsylvania. It's above freezing. Finally, welcome. Continuing to rise a future. I hope you are thawing out over there. Pamela, New Mexico is also having beautiful weather, sunny, no dust storms for once. Oh, interesting. I don't remember. I lived briefly in New Mexico. I don't remember the dust storms. Maybe there were. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. Working your feature-length rom-com. Okay, so question of the day. How do you, we were talking about when would you want to add more conflict to a scene and how do you do it? And, oh my gosh, what did I just lose? Here we go. There it is. So add more conflict to make it harder for the protag to get what they want, and it speeds up the script. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's one of the benefits. Making it harder for the protagonist to get what they want, that adds conflict, and it does tend to speed up the script. That's cool. Juno, I'd want to add more conflict to a scene if it's feeling boring or unmotivated, if that's the right word. I think that's really good. Yeah, I think those are two really important things. Boring, if it's just kind of like, I'm not really invested. Things are just kind of happening. Like there's a difference between things just sort of happening, a sequence of events, and like a story that you're kind of invested in. And unmotivated really is helpful because conflicts come from people wanting things and there being obstacles in that way. So if they don't want anything, then it's kind of unmotivated. Things are just sort of happening, but not really because of a motivation. So I think that's a really good point. And you can add obstacles, disagreements, setbacks, surprises for the protagonist to deal with. That all helps to add conflict. Awesome. Totally. Niche in LA is editing a play for a reading in a writer's development lab. Oh, that's so cool. Kelly in Kansas, back to working on a pilot. And let's see here. Oh, Shaka was talking about making his list of films for every country. My goal is to watch a piece of film from every UN country, a short or a feature. That's a pretty cool goal. I like that. Serge, listened to while driving. This is my first time able to sit at my desk and fully tune in. Happy to be here. You're so dope. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. You're dope for being here. You're all dope for being here. Neffy, yes, it is great that the chat was working. Although Neffy, you in particular were like really good with the emojis last time, I feel like. All right. So let's see here. Search, I would add conflict in doses, not too early on, but early in Act 2, where it's almost normalized, where the audience is unsure how it concludes. So this is kind of interesting because conflict works on a lot of levels. So you're kind of talking about like, I feel like big macro kind of structural level conflict, but I'm talking a little bit more about scene level conflict, which is, we talked about a little earlier that like scenes generally have some sort of motivation. Like a scene exists because someone wants something usually. That can mean a lot of different things. It doesn't necessarily mean like I'm hungry or I want money. It's just like there's some sort of purpose. There's some sort of goal. There's something some way that the character wants to feel, or some goal they want to attain, something that they want in a scene, right? There's like a purpose kind of for that scene. And you can have conflict at the scene level by putting obstacles in the way of that purpose. And that can really help. As we kind of talked about, like if your script's feeling boring or slow or unmotivated, having that kind of scene level conflict can be really helpful. MGM Vlogs, anyone have screenwriting workshop suggestions in person, LA or Orange County? I mean, one thing I would say is check out UCLA Extension. They have classes and they're not as, as it's not like going to film school. I mean, it still costs money. But UCLA Extension, I would check that out. Zoe in South Africa, fall is dawning soon, feeling conflicted about it. That's right, you're in the southern hemisphere, so we're going into spring and you're going into fall. Let's see here. Brian's working on a graphic novel in Jacksonville. I would add a conflict with scene to explain my characters and be done by showing them solving problems. Problem solving is great. Yeah, so the conflict is the presentation of the problem. And I think there's one thing that you're kind of hitting on a little bit there by like solving problems. This is reminding me of another thing, which is it's a great character development device, right? Because how our characters deal with problems reveal so much about who they are, right? Think about it. Like something comes up in your day, and do you get frustrated? Are you chill about it? Are you kind of excited about the possibility? Do you cheat? Do you, like, do you lie? Like, how do you deal with the problems? How does your character deal with those problems? So preventing conflict is a great also character development tool. That's really important to know. I thought for a minute last week Mike was just ignoring me before I realized YouTube was borked. Yeah, no, I thought you guys, I almost had a breakdown last week because I was asking like, how's it going, guys? How's your writing going? And I was just seeing nothing in the chat. And I could see people were tuning in. Like I could see the numbers. So I'm just like, why is everyone being mean to me today? Why is no one talking to me? What have I done? And then I figured out that the chat was broken and it wasn't my insecurity, but my insecurities were definitely peaked. So I'm glad that you're all here and talking to me. It makes me feel loved and not alone. All right. Conflict. My favorite method is to make sure I can fit a but or therefore between every beat in my scene. Ooh, I love this. Yes. We talk about this a lot. So if people are wondering what this is about, it's about complications and consequences, basically. So it's a way of thinking about story. Kind of like if you're trying to figure out where to go, if something happens, but a complication, something else happens, therefore a third thing happens. So instead of like this happens and this happens, like I went to the store and I bought groceries, right? But if instead of it's like I went to the store, but I forgot my wallet, therefore I had to walk, blah, 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 do something, or, like you're creating a story by adding these complications and the consequences. And it's a really good way of developing your story. Chris, I'm glad you brought that up here. I normally weave in conflict through characters, different decisions, which usually has a later emotional payoff. Yeah, I mean, decision-making is a fantastic, we were kind of talking about that earlier, about how decision-making, one, reveals character, but also creates conflicts. Because it's also fun with decision-making, conflict breeds conflict, right? Because if someone faces a conflict, the way they deal with it doesn't necessarily just resolve all the problems in their life. Like the way they deal with it can then create more conflicts or different conflicts, right? So if they're like, let's say there's a conflict, where someone says like, where were you? And you lie. You've solved that first conflict, but now you've created another conflict with the lie, which is now going to lead to more conflict. So it can be like escalating and you can build upon each other. So that's awesome. Cool. Some really awesome stuff in the chat. I just want to kind of go over a few things, some of which we've already talked about. So when would you want to add more conflict to a scene? Kind of getting back to our question. When things feel flat or boring or slow, when you're feeling disconnected from the story, or when you feel the script needs more momentum, which is something I don't think we talked about a little bit. Momentum is important. If it feels like it's just kind of like halting, like you don't have that, a great script kind of has that downhill feeling where it's just like you're just kind of flowing with it. It has this momentum to it. It when you read it, when you're reading a story that you're just kind of like, it just feels like gravity's pulling you forward, and conflict can help give you that sense of momentum. So how would you do it? We talked a little about this. Think about what the goal of the scene is, right? What does the character want? It could be active. They want something different, or it could be resistant. They don't want things to change. Like if you just want to sleep in and something's waking you up, that could be conflict. You're not like actively really doing something, but like you're still being protected. Whatever you want is being challenged. And you also it's helpful if the character cares about that goal, right? Like if they want something and they care about it, that really helps add some juice to the story. So you think about that goal, and then you think about what could stop them. Oftentimes that's a person, right? We call that person like an antagonist. There's another character, but it could be a circumstance. It could be the setting. It could be themselves, like their own fears or insecurities. And if it is someone else, like an antagonist, it could be someone who wants the same thing, but they're in competition. Or it can be someone who just like doesn't want the protagonist to get their thing. Or it could be someone who's like, if it's a comedy, it could be someone who's just completely oblivious. They don't even understand that they're keeping the protagonist, and that's just like making from their goal, and that's just making the protagonist like really frustrated. So lots of ways this can do. And the antagonist can have a lot of different feelings about it. They could be doing something because they're causing this conflict. They could feel conflicted about causing the conflict. They could be angry. They could feel sad that they're doing it. They could be oblivious. They could just like not care. There's lots of things. And then this conflict, we talked a little about character. What does it react? What kind of reaction does it provoke in your character? What does it say about them? What does it reveal about them? But also, how does it reveal Or how does it influence like what they do next? They face this conflict. What do they say? Are they saying things that they wouldn't normally say? Are they sharing their deepest feelings? Are they speaking out of anger or fear? Is that causing them more problems? What do they do? Do they lash out? Do they react in some sort of expected way? All of these things can just be really great ways to like build your story and develop your characters. So don't just think about conflict on the big story scale. Think about your conflict also on the granular, on the scene level, because it's just like so important. It's really a really helpful tool for like building the momentum of your script. So those are some thoughts a little bit on momentum today here. All right. A couple of little questions here. MJ Vlogs. Anyone major in screenwriting? Always trying to hear from people if it's worth it or not. You know, it's interesting. I did not. I did like some creative writing in college, fiction writing. Worth it is, I don't know. It's hard. Like you can always write. There's also like, I feel like usually people ask about film school, is that's worth it? And a lot of it has to do with, I think the financial side, like what can you afford? You know, what kind of job are you expecting to get after you graduate? I'm kind of like a practical person often, so it's like it's good to have something else that you're studying that could help like you get a job. But I'm curious to get some other perspectives. If someone else has majored in film, want to share their experience, get in there. There we go. A lot of people, don't go to film school, as Cash says here. All right. Hey, Quan in Atlanta also joining. Glad you're here. First sprint of 2026. Yeah, it's been a minute. So I hope you get some good writing done. I think on that note, let us actually do some writing. Yeah, we've been talking for a while. Oh yeah, it's 17 minutes past the hour. Usually try to get it started by 15 minutes past the hour. So we're gonna move into the first writing sprint. So if this is your first time, what's gonna happen here is I'm going to mute myself and I'm gonna shrink off, just become a little Micah over in the corner of the screen. I'm going to put a timer up on the screen instead. It's going to count down 15 minutes, put some vibey music on, and we're just going to get into it. The first writing sprint, it's like a warm-up sprint. Really low bar, no pressure. Oftentimes, maybe you're reading over what you were writing last, or maybe you're doing some free writing, or maybe you're just kind of ready to jump in. Whatever it is, 15 minutes on the clock. We'll just do our own thing. They're unprompted sprints because we're all working on different things. So, and we're at different points of our projects. So it's just whatever you need to work on, whatever you feel led to work on. This is your time, so you can use it as you will. So I'm gonna get the music going here. I'm gonna get the timer going in just a second. 15 minutes on the clock. We'll see how it went. We're gonna keep moving. It's gonna be great. Well, I'm already feeling that energy spike from you guys. So let's get into it. 15 minutes on the clock. Y'all ready? Here we go. right. That is the end of the first writing sprint here on Let's Write Scripts. If you just joined, welcome to Let's Write Scripts, brought to you by Arc Studio Screenwriting Software, the best screenwriting app in the world. We're doing timed writing sprints. We're talking about screenwriting. We're answering questions. We're doing all sorts of great things here on Let's Write Scripts, and I'm so happy that you're joining us. If you did that sprint, I want to know, how did it go? How is your writing starting off today? Are the muses with us? Are they giving us a back massage? Are they cheering with pom-poms? Or are they throwing eggs at us and just like heckling? Let me know. And if you're struggling with anything in particular in your writing, get in the chat and feel free to ask me about it. Love answering any questions about your about screenwriting, about the craft of screenwriting in particular, anything about your character development, about your story, about your scenes. Could be about conflict in scenes, which is what we were talking about earlier. Did any of our discussion earlier kind of prompt any questions in your head? Get in the chat. Let me know. Love just like dig into this stuff. Just really just get our hands dirty in there. That's what we're here for. We're story nerds. We're writing nerds. This is the warm, happy family that we have gathered here on Let's Write Scripts. But please let me know how it's going. How was your writing in that first sprint? Question here from Christian that I saw earlier. Do flashbacks to important backstory generally have to take place in Act 1, or can it be hinted at in dialogue, then shown in flashback later, say in Act 2B? Yeah, I mean, so I was thinking about this a little bit. And my kind of initial thoughts on the subject are, I mean, flashbacks can happen at any time. I'm sure we could think of an example of like a flashback happening almost any time in a movie. I bet there's probably some movies that like have ended with a flashback. I would say, as a general rule, the later you have the flashback, the more of an impact that it should be, right? So it's not just revealing information, it's changing the course of the story. It's changing our understanding of who a character is or what this story is. It's not just informational, it's transformational. I think that's kind of what I would say. It's like, if you're going to do flashbacks kind of later on in your script, like give them an impact, make them have meaning, not just filling in some gaps kind of. One thing that like I was trying to think of like flashbacks in my head, and the first thing that popped in my mind was Ocean's 11. So, we see the casino robbery happening in real time, and we think this is reality. We think we know what's happened. And then afterwards, we get the flashbacks that show us what actually happened in the story. And it's like, whoa, this was a different story all along. And like that, it's not like, it's like that's what the movie is. Like those flashbacks make the movie. The movie is about basically you seeing one thing. It's like a magic trick, but it's actually this other thing was happening, right? So like that flashback, those flashbacks are kind of transformational in our understanding of like what this story is, because it literally, that's what makes the movie what the movie is. The whole movie is about setting up a con, almost making everyone think that this is one thing that's happening, but then actually this other thing was happening. It's like a sleight of hand. It's a reveal. So that's kind of those are transformational flashbacks, I would say. And those happen very late in the movie. So again, this is not going to be every case, everything, but that's just kind of as I'm kind of pondering that question, Christian, I think that's what comes to mind, that, if you're going to have them later on, really, they got to have punch. They got to have some sort of impact on the story. Shok, I'm a bit stuck on writing a fight scene. I need more than just a fight, but also not describing every punch and kick thrown. Don't quite know what a middle ground is. So one thing that's really helpful, I think, with fight scenes is to think about it in terms of like character. And basically, like, I think the problem is that with fight scenes, it often turns mechanical, right? Punch, block, kick, throw. It's like a choreography, right? And that's just not that interesting to write. So instead, think about almost the status, the power shifts. This person's on top, then this person's on top. This person's about to die, but this, right? So think of it as a little story being revealed through the fight. Think about like the status shifts, who's on top, who's not on top. Think about what it reveals about the character, like what emotionally are they going through as they have this fight, as they're like about to have their like head, crushed or something, and that means that their loved one is going to be taken away, and they can't, they have to get up to go save that other person, and they, like that kind of thing. Try to think of it as emotional beats, as the status gifs. You're telling a story. You're always telling a story. So try to get away from the mechanics of it and to the story of it, I would say here. Film school. Ooh, so yeah, people were having a kind of bit of a film school discussion in the chat, which is pretty cool. Kiwi's chiming in here. What will educate you just as much or more is getting PA experience on sets and films, devour resources, so internet books, make short films. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of autodidacts. A lot of people went to film school. A lot of people didn't. It really, I mean, like no matter what path you choose, it's still about your hunger and dedication really to it. So there are a lot of different paths that you can take, but it's like, it's the people who kind of stick around and keep going, and are just like very dedicated to it. That matters. For that last sprint, Cash got a pass a section. It's been bugging for days. Maternal editor finally just started taking vacation. That can be very helpful at times. And I love that feeling when you're just, because I had that recently where I was like, for a few days, just kind of on this one beat that I didn't really get. And then walking the dog this morning and, yesterday, walking the dog yesterday, I just had a little thought about it. And I'm like, oh, that's what that beat is. Came home, write it down. Now I can move on. So it's great to get past that. It's also often when you have that kind of stuck feeling, it's when you're walking the dog or taking a shower or doing something like that, and your brain's, a little occupied, that you can suddenly see it. It's like when you're banging your head against the wall, if you kind of just can turn your mind to something else, take a walk, and you're like, oh, why don't I just do that? So I love that feeling here. Nishi, the muses are very active, getting lots done. Awesome. Ooh, Zoe, though, they're throwing eggs. You guys need to like do a little bit of a muse exchange. Because it seems like Nisha's muses are too active, maybe. So they have some like excess energy that can send Zoe's way. And same with Kelly. Gives some excess energy to Kelly. Serge enjoyed the sprint a lot. Took feedback from my writing pals about Act 1 and applied them. They wanted more dialogue from a main cast. Great. I love it. I love getting notes. I love getting good notes and applying it. Notes, it's people helping you make your script better. It's fantastic. Let's love it. Question: how do you approach scene directions or parentheticals? How do you know how much info to add to give context to the scene and guides actors, but also not over directing into the script? Oh, this is really good. I think I have a whole video on parentheticals that I wrote or that I made. I would check that out. Quand, I think I do. I think it's on the YouTube channel, unless I'm like imagining this, but I think I have something called like the art of parentheticals, or unless I was playing it. Check that on the channel. So yeah, no, this is a very common thing. I mean, there are a couple of ways to approach this question. One is to think about, because there's kind of two different things. There's actors and directing, kind of. So it's like, what are the guidance are you giving to the actors, and what are you kind of giving to the camera, right? Those are two ways this is usually expressed. In terms of the actors, I would say focus on things that they can do. Give them something to do. Honestly, it just helps to pretend you're an actor, and what would make you excited in a scene to be like, oh, I can dig into that. I can do that. Or do you look at the scene and be like, this writer thinks I'm a puppet, like you have to, it really, reading a lot, getting a feel for it, you get experience on this, but try to give them things that like an actor would be excited to dig into is one way to think about it. And then in terms of the other way, in terms of the camera, I like try not to put like all the camera directions in there. I just try to think about like the eye of the reader, like what's the mental picture in their head, and write to the mental picture, not to what the camera is doing. Those are two things that I would say. Muses are here today for Juno, but I have no idea what they're doing, going off in some strange directions. I'm just following along. All right, we'll see what we're going to find at the end of that path. Could be something really cool. Could be a complete waste of time. Don't know, or a partial waste of time, because you might end up nowhere, but along the way, there might be something interesting that you can use. You never know. You never know on a tangent. So that's pretty cool. All right. Kelly, can we use a flashback as a memory? A character remembers just a brief moment in her life. Can we just call it a memory instead of flashback? Does that make sense though to start today? Sure, you can call it whatever you want. Just make sure it's clear in the script. Just make sure that the reader knows exactly what, they're doing. But like if it's a flashback to that character, it's kind of implied that it's a memory. I think it's making it more clear kind of in the present day scene, kind of, that they're having this memory and then showing it, and then when we come back to the present, showing how having that memory has then impacted them. What is their emotional state now? How is it different? Because that kind of shows the impact of that memory, right? So we see them in real time. They start, something triggers a memory. We have the flashback. We're back to the present. And our character is a little different. They are melancholy. They're sad. They're angry. They're inspired. Something has been, some sort of reaction has been provoked by that memory, I would say. Brian, going right down the middle. The muses are somewhat active. Not bad. You can take it. How do you feel about writing multiple scripts at a time? This is going to vary depending on the person, because like, I don't want to say everyone has the same style. I will say though, if you have too many projects going at a time, there's definitely a risk of of project hopping, right? So that whenever one gets hard, you jump to the other one because the grass is greener, right? And if you kind of keep project hopping, then you can end up with like 3 or 4 scripts that you don't finish. Better one script that you do finish than 3 or 4 scripts you don't finish. The slight caveat I would say to that is oftentimes I will have an A project and a B project. So the A project is what I'm spending 80 to 90% of my time on, right? And at some points it might be 100%. Like right now, I'm basically 100% on this thing because I'm just like getting this draft out. So that's all I'm doing. But when I finish this draft, I'm going to have some time where I want to put it in a drawer. I'm going to have some time where I'm going to get feedback from my trusted feedback sources, right? And during that time, I may switch over to a B project, do a little noodling on something. Maybe there's a pitch idea I have or some other idea. So having a B project can be great for those moments of downtime, but having multiple projects that you're actively doing at the same time, and this is different for everyone. For me personally, I think there's a risk of project hopping, of whenever you hit a wall on one project, you hop to the other project because that feels easier. Then you hit a wall on that project and you hop to the other project. And again, you're just cycling through projects and like not buckling down and making progress on any of them. So better one finished script than 3 or 4 unfinished scripts. I think hopefully that kind of covers what you were talking about. I know we ask this often, but I need a refresher. My action lines have a tendency to get too wordy or describing too much. Is it best to keep action lines short and not have many? So look, you know, if you go and read Oppenheimer, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, that thing's just a wall of text. Or oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the movie. About the composer. Oh my gosh, I'm so blanking about this movie with what's her name is in the lead. I'm completely blanking. Anyways, those movies, was that Todd Fields? I think he wrote that. Incredibly big chunks of action type stuff, right? Like writer-director movies often. So there are different stylistic types of things. So you can find an example of everything. In general, less can be more, you know? Trying to think, this kind of goes to a little bit what I was talking about earlier about, I think Quan was asking about, you know, how much to direct in the script, and thinking about like, what do people need, right? What does the reader need? What do they need to understand what's going on, to understand the emotions of what's going on? Focusing on that. You don't need that much detail. You need like the vibe of, you know, like the reader needs to understand that. You don't need to like describe everything in the room. You need to if a character walks into a room, right, you don't have to explain everything in the room. You need to explain the things that matter in that room, and you need to understand like what the point of that room is. Like, do they walk in and is it a friendly room? Is it reminiscent of their childhood? They walk to that room and is it like a torture chamber and they're scared, right? Like what's the emotional impact? What's the takeaway that you want the reader to have, and focus on that kind of thing instead of like detailing everything. There's something also where, let's say like I got up and I'm sitting here and I go and I grab something and I come back, you know, you could say, I pushed my chair back. I stood up. I turned. I walked towards the wall. I come back, right? Or you could just say, I got up and grabbed the thing. And normally you just do the second one. I got up and grabbed the thing, unless there is something about the pacing where you want every little beat. He stopped. He pushes this chair back. And there's like a moment we're trying to live in. You know what I'm saying? So it depends on your intention, what you're trying to do. Generally though, yeah, quick and kind of getting the main vibe is important. If you're slowing it down, if you're getting really detailed, you have an intention. There's some sort of reason that you're doing that. That's what I would say. Chris stayed up too late last night because he had a writing groove and didn't want to stop. As a result, today is going slower. Hey, that's great. That's a great trade-off. John, thanks for the fight scene advice has a similar challenge with car chases. Yeah, car chases are just fight scenes with cars. It's very similar. What's the story you're telling? Like with car chases, oftentimes it's you can think of like old classic car chases where it's about like a battle of wills or like who's gonna blink, right? Like there's people playing. I know there's like old classic movies where cars are playing chicken, and it's like who turns away at the last minute, and like that's a character thing, right? It's about these two characters. It's about the emotions they're feeling, about their confidence, about how close to the edge they're willing to go. It's like those are the kind of things that matter. There we go. I'm great with writing essays, poems, short stories, creative prose, etc. Screenwriting is new to me. It's a lot harder to try to write in the way we speak and to make it sound natural. It's so interesting. Like there are certain skills that transfer over between kind of some of the things you say, and there are certain things that don't. Like screenwriting in some ways has some things more in common with poetry and some things more in common with short stories and some things with novels, so it's all like very different, and you sort of learn the languages, but oftentimes you can take little bits of things. Like poems have a cadence to them that's very similar sometimes to how action lines are written. They can be very spare, like line breaks, how you use them, how the eye flows down the page. So there are certain things that you can transfer over, but it is sometimes like learning a bit of a new language. All right. Jane's getting a lot of done. Interesting characters. Nisha sending energy to everyone who needs it. Lots of stuff going on here. Awesome. Just trying to think anything here. Tar, yes, was the movie that I was trying to think of about the composer. Thank you much. Is there a way to describe when a protagonist enters a dream? It's not a flashback. Yeah, basically just treat it the same as a flashback, but call it dream. So oftentimes what I'll do in these things is like, I'll have my heading and, interior, house, day, and then dream, flashback. But it also is kind of like, what's the transition into that dream, right? Like, or do we see them falling asleep? Then that's going to be in the scene before, and that kind of helps us transition. Or like, how are we getting there and how are we getting out of it? And that just kind of depends on the way that you're going to tell your story. All right. Wow. That was a lot of really good questions. I feel like we just had like great discussion in there. Is that just me, or did that just feel like very dense and meaty and good? But I'm losing my voice, which means I've been talking too much. So we should do some more writing, because that's mainly what we're here to do. So we are going to move on to the 25-minute writing sprint. I think, sorry. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what your intention. If the audience says no, it's a dream at the moment, I would personally not include it, but that's a stylistic choice. Yeah, I mean, that depends on the control of information. If you want, and this is sort of the reader in the situation for the script, do you want them to know it's a dream or not? And if so, then there's that moment of realization where it is a dream. And that happens kind of in the action lines of the script. All right, cool. Anyways, going to the sprint, 25-minute. This is like the Goldilocks writing sprint. We're warmed up. We're not tired. The most productive writing often happens here. So I'm going to get the music going here. Oh man, I had music playing the whole time actually from the last sprint. Turn it down. So 25 minutes on the clock. We'll come back. I'll answer more questions. We'll show the sandwich of the week. I'm so glad y'all are here. Loving the energy today. Loving the participation. I hope you guys get some great writing done. Maybe learning a few things. And let's dive back into our work. Let's do it. 25 minutes on the clock. See you guys on the other side. Sorry, y'all. That was slow. Didn't see that the timer had ended. Apologies for that. Actually, no. If you were feeling the energy, it just meant you got a little more writing time. So I'll never apologize for that. But where am I? Great. Welcome to Let's Write Scripts. If you joined during that writing sprint, this is Let's Write Script. That was our second writing sprint. We're going to do one more. And if you did that writing sprint, I want to know how it went. For me, it was going really well. That's why I forgot to notice that the timer had ended, because I was just like in it. And I hope some of you maybe were lost in that creative flow as well. Yeah, if the sprint went well, let me know. If it didn't, let me know that as well. And yeah, if you're doing anything particular that you want to talk about, we were discussing a lot of stuff earlier. If you have any other screenwriting questions that you want to get in the chat and let me know. Apologies, there's some construction starting up nearby if you can hear that in the background. But yeah, let's see here. How are we doing in the chat? Autumn Peak is just joining us in time for one more sprint. Neffy had a good run. She got ink all over her hands. Pick up the pen because it's faster than typing. I've not learned the art of dictation yet. Got the brain arm link going today. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of writing by hand recently. Or for a few weeks I was. Now I'm back to work on the computer. All right, great. So I didn't miss the end of it too much. That was so fast. The muses have returned. It's so funny. Yeah, like that sprint is 25 minutes, yet it felt so much shorter for me than the first sprint because it was just flowing so well. I love it. Autumn, yeah, it's 1 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday, but you can just restart and watch from the beginning. Like just pull the playhead back to the beginning of the video, and then like for you, it'll have just started. Chris, that was a good one. Tiredness be damned. So glad to hear. Cash went well for him, not as good as the first one, but that's how it goes. Hey, still good though. Brian's thoughts were more concise in that sprint. Love it. Oof, Kiwi is slogging through the mud today. Maybe the next sprint will yield some fruit. Yeah, sometimes when you're in the dirt, you're planting seeds, right? And they're going to grow into the future. The muses left me. They're busy. They got a lot of things to do. Sometimes they'll probably come back, but like there's a lot of writers that they got to be out there inspiring. I went back to edit what I've already written. Question: How do you approach editing yourself and removing redundancies? Any tips? I mean, I guess there's a lot of different ways. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking in terms of removing redundancies. I mean, it's just like reading back over your work and changing it. But that doesn't seem like a helpful answer. So, I would say though, just in terms of approach, one thing we've talked about a few times on the show is that there are some people who will write, an entire draft, a vomit draft, or a crappy first draft, or a shitty first draft. Apologies for the language. And then go back and redo it. I'm more of like a overlapping wave kind of writer. Well, I'll write 20 to 30 pages and then go back and then write the next section, or write 50 pages and then go back. And it's kind of a seesaw pattern where like I'll go back and then kind of go forward. That's kind of more how I approach editing. I feel like whatever the approach is though, you want to give yourself like good chunks of time where you're not editing, right? Like giving yourself good, 10, 15, 20 pages, whatever it is, 30 pages. For some people, it's 100 pages. We're just like, you're just really letting the words get out and then going back, I will say. So that's just one thing I will say, just like in terms of approach, that can be helpful. Oh man, we're almost at the end of time here because that second break, I feel like we talked about a lot of really good stuff. So that means it's time for the sandwich of the week. If you're new, what is the sandwich of the week? Well, every week here on Let's Write Scripts, I show you the best sandwich that I made in that week. Yeah, and we've had some pretty nice sandwiches over the years. I take over the I guess I can't say years now. It's been doing this for a while. But this is the best sandwich of this past week. Here we go. I loved this one, and I liked this little frame. It just felt like, I don't know. This is just a classic sandwich. It was like a world traveler, man about town. But what do we have here? We have buffalo chicken on sourdough with Colby Jack cheese. We got avocado. We got tomato. We got Italian greens. We got pickles. We got stone ground mustard, and we got some mayo in there. I think there was also a little olive oil in this one. Yeah, and the buffalo chicken just gives I've been doing turkey a lot, and so switching it up to the buffalo chicken just gives it a little bit of a kick. And I think that this was a pretty solid sandwich of the week. I very much enjoyed this one. So it wasn't like the craziest of the sandwiches, but like just like a really good one. Yeah, loving the Colby Jack. I think I'm like back to cheddar now because I finished up that pass. It's an adventure sandwich. Exactly. This one's got a spirit of adventure. This one's got dreams of the world. It's going places. And yeah, I got some like little flowers in the background too. Very springy, delicious, which is great. Love it. Yeah, nom nom. I always show this now at the end. For those of you who've been around, you know, when I first showed the sandwich, the very first time I showed it at the beginning of Let's Write Scripts, and then it just made people hungry and they didn't feel like writing. They wanted to go eat. So I save it for near the end now. We work up for this. This is the reward, the sandwich of the week. Juno was saying they love editing, which the whole writing process was editing. I struggle most with coming up with new words in the vomit draft without getting discouraged by quality. That's funny. I go back and forth. Sometimes I love editing. Sometimes I love the discovery and the creation. I feel like that's more. I'm a little bit more of that, but I do like going back and editing too. Like making things better always feels good. I feel like sometimes the editing just like implies a struggle because you're improving something. So you are dealing with the problem. So it's like sometimes it's harder. So sometimes it can feel harder. But I don't know. I mean, everything, all the parts of writing can feel hard sometimes. But that's cool. I'm glad you have that approach. I feel like a lot of people like hate editing. So it's nice to see this like pro editing point of view there. All right. So again, we are like 2:23. Oh man, we are like towards the end of time. So we're going to just jump into the final writing sprint real quick. So I want to thank you all for being here. I hope you had a great time. Hope you got some good writing done. Back next week at 1 p.m. Pacific here on the Arc Studio Screenwriting YouTube channel. If you have to leave during the sprint, no worries. Just say farewell in the chat and let me know how it went. And if you stick around till the very end, we will say our final farewells, and I will wish you well. And yeah, but let's just do it. Let's just roll into the final sprint here. Yeah. Highlight of my week. Love hanging out with you guys. Love writing. Love answering questions. Talking about this kind of stuff. Hope you guys had a good time. Maybe learned something. But 15 minutes on the clock. Let's try to end strong. Let's just like focus if you got the time and just really, you've set this time aside for your writing. So take advantage of it. That's all I'll say. Here we go. All right. That takes us to the end of the writing sprint and the end of Let's Write Scripts for Wednesday, March 4th, the year 2026. Still been calling it 2025. It takes me like 5 months to adjust to the new year. I'm so glad you all were here. I hope you had a great time. Hope you got some great writing done. Made some progress on your scripts. You should be proud of yourselves for taking the time for your writing, for sticking to it. It's really special. It's a good thing that you can do for yourself. It's a gift that you can give yourself every day almost. Just, any day that you can set aside time for your writing, whether it's here with me or just on your own. And I hope you're doing more writing on your own. That's just, it's a gift you can give yourself, and it's a wonderful gift. So I hope you have a great week. I would love to see you all next week, 1 p.m. Pacific, here on the channel. You can find the new live stream. It'll be great. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got, guys. So please be kind to yourselves and happy writing, and I'll see you all next week. Farewell.